And welcome to a new episode of the 314 Sports Show here on the STL Sports Network. My name is Brandon. I'll be your host tonight. I got Jordan and Chris along with me. Before we get started, do want to kind of give a little shout out. So, kind of lost a St. Louis legend. For those of you who know of Ted Drewes and the Ted Drewes ice cream, frozen custard, whatever you want to call it. Ted Drewes Jr. passed away today at 96 years old, famous for his saying, it really is good guys and gals. So if you ever seen the commercials, you'll know 100% what we're talking about. But just a little, thoughts are out to the family of the Drewes and yeah, just hopefully, it's Ted Drewes is a staple in St. Louis. It's just like Emos. Anytime you come to St. Louis, you know of Ted Drewes as well. So just a little shout out there as well. So Chris, Jordan, how you guys doing tonight?
Great, man. Great. Good to see you guys.
Yeah. Before we even get started with that, have you guys ever heard of corn sweat before?
That sounds familiar. Corn sweat.
Okay. So we've all lived in the Midwest for the majority of our lives, right? I'd imagine. So I was looking, scrolling through Twitter like I typically do, or X, whatever, whatnot, trying to get things ready for some of the other shows. And I rolled across this thing, and it was a Weather Channel thing talking about corn sweat. And they're like, it's corn sweat. It's like drying out, from what I understand, it's like corn drying out. So it's it's releasing all its moisture into the air, which is causing the ridiculous humidity we have in the area. I didn't know that until this week. And I was like, I've lived in the Midwest all my life, never heard of a corn sweat bubble being the reason why it's, it's hot as Hades for the last couple of days.
Yeah, it was like 70, 80 degrees. Sorry to cut you off. It was like 70, 80 degrees right there the past couple of days. And all of a sudden, boom, 90. It's like, man, it's getting kind of dry out there too. We need a little rain.
Yeah. Luckily it rained tonight in a good chunk of the area. So that's always a plus. But it's just it was just caught me by surprise. I'm like, I've never heard of corn sweat in my life.
No, that's weird. No.
Never.
No,
never. It's just one of those things. I don't know. Just threw me off. Kind of threw my train of thought for the day. I'm like, corn sweat. Like that's just
yeah. I've never heard of it.
If that's the case. Like I don't want to be sweating right now, and I am. It's hot. It's nuts. Anyways, let's talk a little bit of City SC. Rough. I would say a rough outing. We probably shouldn't even sugarcoat at this point, right?
I mean, I talked in one of the earlier episodes that I was on with you guys about how last year they did such a good job of turning losses into ties and ties into wins. And this year is the exact opposite of that. They're turning wins into ties and ties into losses. And last year, last year they did such a good job of capitalizing on their chances and minimizing their mistakes, at least until towards the end of the season when things kind of, went off the rails. But this year has just been one thing after the other. And you get to a point where you still have not won a road game. You're on the road, a team you just beat in Leagues Cup 3-1, a game that you score 4 goals in on the road should be a win, 99% of the time. And they find a way to not get the 3 points. And at this point in the season, when you're desperately fighting to stay even relevant in the playoff discussion, for them to drop the 2 points off what should have been a win is extraordinarily frustrating. So yeah, it's one of those where, you can have ties that feel like wins, but this was a tie that felt like a loss for sure.
Yeah.
And if it's not the dagger that ends their playoff hopes, it's getting awfully close, like to that point where this is not going to be even a realistic or remote possibility anymore. So
well, yeah, you look at we kind of look at the way that game, and they were up 4-. I thought I saw they were up 4-1 at one point. I know they were up 4-2.
Yeah, 4-2.
So they were up 2 goals at one point. What do you think happened in that situation? Now, we talked before we started the show tonight that they just kind of like what you said, shelled up basically.
It's not so much that they, the famous soccer parlance is to park the bus. That's the famous soccer saying is park the bus and just play defense. You cannot. I don't think they were trying to do that. I think that they looked unprepared for the sustained pressure that Portland had. They had no creativity and ideas on how to relieve that pressure with possession, which is how you have to do it. Yeah, you can try and spring counterattacks, but what your primary responsibility is to give your defense a break. It's no different than, in American football when, you have a team that's running up and down in your defense. What do you try to do? You try to run the ball, keep your defense on the sideline for a little bit, give them a break, right? Like everybody understands this. In hockey, you're turning over lines fast enough that it's never really an issue. But, in soccer, one of the ways that you alleviate pressure is possessing the ball. Just, possessing the ball, slowing the game down, taking the air out of the ball is kind of the expression that they use. And just slowing the pace, getting the crowd to die down a little bit because it was getting pretty rowdy in Providence Park, which is one of the best atmospheres in the league. It's the oldest stadium in the league. It's one of the kind of, crown jewels of MLS is the old Providence Park. And it was pretty raucous in there at that point. And they just needed to kind of kill the momentum, and they never could possess the ball for any period of time at all. They were just clearing it, and basically Portland would go get it, and then you're right back down in City's End again. And that points to a lack of tactical creativity and tactical changes that were not made to just, basically try to weather the storm for 30, 40 minutes is unrealistic. No team can do that. So,
yeah, it just seems, I don't know. You said you brought up, you kind of mentioned the playoff implication. We've talked before on the show with you and with Tom and some other ones, like, hey, like these coming out of the League's Cup, these last 9 games are extremely important if they want to, have any shot at winning, or not winning, but getting into the playoffs at least.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it with the Blues. Like, we look at the way the Blues season went. You lose the games, you lose into teams like San Jose and Chicago and Columbus, and not getting the points you need, and you're right there with where you are, where you should be in the playoff, like trying to get to the playoffs, and you can't because you can't beat the teams that you should. As you mentioned, they just beat Portland 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
In the League's Cup, and Portland's in 7th in the West. They're not great. I think they were a little surprised that Evander, who's Portland's best player, played the entire game. I think their coach kind of may have dummied him a little bit because he kind of said all week that no, he might play half the game. He's able to play, but I don't think he played all 90 and looked fine. Right. So, but that's not an excuse. Like they just, for whatever reason, and we talked before the stream started about how, this team couldn't buy goals at the beginning of the year. They were, desperate for any kind of scoring. And now with the new additions of Hartle and Teuscher and Simon Betcher, who's been amazing so far, they're scoring goals left and right. Like their offense has been fantastic, and it should only get stronger when Klaus and Holm come back. So offensively, like they've looked really, really good. And that's kind of the weird dichotomy right now is, City fans can look at the roster as it is now and say, man, if everybody is mostly back, which this roster should be pretty much unchanged, they might make a tweak here or there, but the bulk of the team's coming back next year. And if this is what they're going to look like offensively, man, they're going to be loaded. But the problem is that's next year, right? And so you still have this stretch of games that's left right now in the regular season. You have 8 more games, and it's like, you dug yourself such a big hole that it may be too late for this year. So it's weird because you're still hopeful that maybe they can make a run this year, but
Sure.
I think a lot of people are starting to look towards next year and what they could potentially be. So
yeah, it's kind of one of those things. You look at the way the Cardinals are right now. We're already looking towards next year, what the roster is going to look like in 2025. Who's going to be here? Who's going to be back? Or not? Who's not going to be back? Is there anybody who we shouldn't expect back? Possibly. I know it's early still, but
the biggest discussion is going to be who the coach is next year.
Right.
And so we may see that they don't go. They don't bring Hackworth back, as he's the interim. I've been pretty critical of him. I think he's an excellent technical director, which is still his job. That's his. Yeah. Still his title, along with interim manager. And I've been pretty critical of him. I think that, again, without knowing or having any kind of inside information as far as what Lutz is thinking, right, I would right now be pretty surprised if Hackworth is made the full-time manager. That's not to say that he can't make a run. I think if they make the playoffs by some miracle, then the job is pretty much his. If he wants it. But if they don't make the playoffs, I think that is an easier explanation for Lutz to say, hey, we can find somebody else, or we can go in a different direction. So, so he's not, I would be right now, I would not expect him to be back as the full-time coach.
Yeah.
As far as players not being back, it's going to be interesting. I don't think Josh Yarrow, who's one of their defensemen, I don't think he'll be back. Jabul Oblam is 100%, 99% going to be gone with the personality conflicts and kind of the behavior that he exhibited in Leagues Cup. Mm-hmm. Not standing with his teammates for penalty kicks, arguing with Hackworth. He's upset about lack of playing time. I think it's 100% that he's out of here. There's a few changes. No team's going to have completely the same roster from any year to year. But there's also an expansion draft coming up with San Diego joining the league.
Right.
So we'll see what the rules. I know we talked a little bit one of the previous times I was on with you guys about how they really haven't said what the rules are going to be yet for that, because they change every time they do one. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be largely the same roster. They have guys signed to contracts that are going to be, where the bulk and the core of the team is going to be here for 2-3 years. So
yeah. So I scrolling through, and with the City SC pages every once in a while. What's the deal with Thornton? Why does he feel like he has like that little bit of like bitterness from fans? Not being around it. It throws me off.
He's the whipping boy. Him and Klaus, I think, draw the most ire. Every year there's going to be somebody.
Right.
Flat out. There's going to be somebody that the fans they don't like their style. They don't like the way they play. Last year, for a lot of people, it was Jared Stroud. They thought he was dirty. They didn't like the way he played. Or if it wasn't Stroud, it was Nico Gioacchini. He flops. He goes down too easy. He plays a European style. Like every year, there's going to be one or two guys that a vocal section of the fan base is going to not be fond of. And I think the unrealistic expectation of Thorson was that he was going to be brought in and he was all of a sudden going to be a replacement for Gioacchini, and he was going to score all these goals, and he was going to be a big offensive contributor. When he's been played out of position most of the year, he's a winger by trade. He's not a striker. He can play up there in a pinch, but he was playing up there for them and not doing much. He's also just an awkward athlete. He's tall and gangly, kind of like Klaus is, where Klaus, it's not aesthetically pleasing the way that either of them play. I think Thor is a guy who can be a role contributor. He's never going to be a star. And you always want your striker to be a star. Like that, you want your striker to be your number 9 to be the star. And so that's not ever going to be him. And so you do have some people who they saw him play once or twice. They saw him miss an easy goal or hit a post or make a bad pass, and they write him off immediately. And he's terrible, and they're never going to change their minds, right? But next year, I'm sure that there will be. It might be the same guys that are the whipping boys for some segment of the fan base, but for another portion of it. They're gonna move on to two new guys and be all over them. Winning cures everything. Losing causes problems. If they were winning this year, you'd hear a lot less complaining about Thor, right? But he unfortunately gets a lot of the grief because there's not a lot of wins to talk about. So
he's City SC's Jordan Kyrou, basically.
Yeah, I mean, minus the kind of emotional reaction. Thor's never really talked about if it bothers him. It doesn't show that it bothers him. And again, it's not as kind of like evident at matches. Where it's evident is the keyboard warriors on Mondays, right? Like that's where you see a lot of it, is just the nameless, faceless, and even the people who do have names and faces, they don't care. They're just going to complain about something.
Right. Well, I just see, I was looking at, you look at the score sheets, he seems to always be there in some way or another.
Lately, he's been better. I mean, he scored a very, very nice goal against Portland. But you can point to Leagues Cup and had a wide open net that you three probably never played soccer ever. All three of you would have scored like this goal against Club America. That was, from 10 feet.
Yeah.
And he shanked it high. So yeah, people are going to look at things like that and say, oh, this guy is not any good. And it's not the case. But you also have to understand that people who are not familiar with MLS or who haven't been soccer fans up to, this, last year, basically,
right.
This is not the best league in the world, right? That's over in Europe. These guys are not the best soccer players in the world. They're good. Right now, you have the greatest player ever playing in Miami, but that's a whole different situation.
Right.
Most of your MLS players are solid soccer players, but they're not like the top of the top of the top. Right. Yeah. And so people have this unrealistic expectation that just because these guys are playing in America, they're infallible, or they're not going to make mistakes. Like, these guys are going to make way more mistakes than NBA players and NHL players and Major League Baseball players, because those are the best leagues in the world. Right. So we do have the best players in those sports. In MLS, we don't. So you're going to see more mistakes, and people have to understand that. So,
right. Which makes sense.
Yeah. It's no different than going, like right now, XFL is a good example. Like go to a Battlehawks game, and it's probably good quality football, but it's not the NFL. Right. Yeah. And so you're going to have guys who make more dumb plays or dumb mistakes or fumbles or intersect. Like, it's because that's not the best guys. Right. And it's no different than what MLS has, which is we don't have the best players in the world. So there's going to be a reduced quality. And I can get up on the weekends and watch Premier League, and those guys are amazing, and then go to City Park on Saturday. And realistically, in my head, I can't expect that it's going to be the same product. It's not. Yeah. So,
yeah. What can we expect? So, they come back to City Park this weekend and get a lovely 1:45 in the afternoon matchup against the LA Galaxy, or 15-7-5 on the year. What should we expect out of this game?
Well, the Galaxy and City, many, many moons ago in this season, it seems like forever ago, played probably, if not the most entertaining match of the entire MLS year. It's probably in the top 5 matches this season out there. It was end to end, just up and down the field. Nobody cared about playing any defense. It was just who's going to score last, right?
Right.
But that's a completely different style and team and coach that City had been, right? And so, you're going to see an awful lot of. It's going to be very loud. I think, with the boycott for Leagues Cup, I think there is a lot of pent up. Hey, we want to get back into City Park and make noise for the supporters groups. I know I feel that way. I can't wait to get back on Sunday, even though it's right in the middle of the afternoon. It's going to be hot. We always seem to play day games on the weekends against LA Galaxy, which is weird. We played them on a Sunday afternoon last year. So it's just kind of odd situation where we play them again on a Sunday afternoon. But I'm excited to get back to City Park. But it is the West leaders. It's the number 1 team in the Western Conference right now. They've been consistently the best team in the Western Conference this year. They're loaded with talent. They also just picked up a German legend in Marco Reus, one of the best players in the history of the Bundesliga. Roman Berkey's buddy, and he chose not to come here because City was pursuing him hard, and his family, his wife, had no interest in living in St. Louis. They wanted to go to LA, so it is what it is with that situation.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be, but on the flip side, they cannot drop points anymore. Like if they want to have any chance to make the playoffs, they have to win this game. If they don't, if they get another tie, now you're in a situation where realistically you probably got to win 7 out of 7, and that's not happening. So every game from here out is pretty much a must win.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this like a must win kind of do or die?
I mean, you never want to say it's a must win until there's mathematical elimination on the on the table.
It can't be that far away though.
No, it's getting close. I mean, there's 8 games left in the season for them. They're 10 points back of a playoff spot. There are 3 teams ahead of them for that playoff spot. Now they play Minnesota twice. They play Kansas once here.
Yeah.
And the more that it drags out and they don't pick up points on some of these teams, the more unrealistic it becomes, and then it turns into the only thing left that we would care about is the Kansas game, right? Yeah. Because it's still our rival that we, hate them with a passion, and it would turn into that would become the entire season. If the playoffs are out of the picture, then, you're going to see that would become the one single game that would matter. But I mean, Sunday is going to be crucial. They have to find a way to get 3 points, and if they had not dropped the 2, if they'd gotten the win in Portland, then you could say, okay, they can get a tie against the Galaxy and still be all right.
Right.
But if they don't get 3 out of this, now you've burned basically what your first 2 ties are, and now you're at 7 games. It's getting to where it's not going to be realistic to make the playoffs.
Yeah. So, I mean, not to, but looking at the last 3 matchups between Galaxy and City, it was a 1-1 draw, a 2-2 draw, a 3-3 draw. So maybe by chance we're just going to see a 4-4 draw.
I am hoping not. We've had enough ties and we've had enough draws this year anyways.
12.
And again, I feel like, hey, this particular match, they have to find a way to win it. And if they can't, this is one of those where you're at the point now in the season where you can't hold anything back.
Right.
Klaus, who's been injured for a significant period of time, was back training with the team. Rasmus Alm is getting close to being back. Like if those guys can play, they're not going to start, but if they can play and come off the bench, if needed, they have to go. Like we can't wait and say, well, maybe they might be ready. It might not be ready yet. We're going to hold them off another week. The time is too short left in the season, and there are too many points down to delay that. So they really have to kind of go all in for these last 8 games and see what happens. So
fair enough. Well, so we always appreciate your thoughts on.
Yeah, no problem. I love talking with you guys and love talking City. So yeah.
You can find the game this weekend. It's actually going to be on Fox also.
Yeah, it's a Fox game.
Fox and Apple TV Plus. 1:45 start time against the LA Galaxy at City Park. It's a big game, so if you can make it out there, definitely do it. Should be a fun one.
Is the game on Sunday?
Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday. Good, because if it was Saturday, there's no chance.
Yeah.
So MLS usually has 1 to 2 Sunday games in the schedule.
Yeah.
Like I said, for some random reason, LA Galaxy was our Sunday day game last year and is again our Sunday day game this year. So
they should make like a rivalry kind of thing with that. Like, make it like Kansas City and St. Louis. They're like both LA teams playing, make it like the marquee matchup of the day kind of deal. Make it like a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, the rivalry, obviously Galaxy's rivalry is LAFC. That's El Tráfico. That's one of the biggest rivalries in MLS. And so they do a good job of highlighting who teams' rivals are. Obviously they've kind of been all in on City and Kansas and the El Tráfico and some of the other rivalries around the league, but the 2 New York teams and so on. Yeah. So, and then you have the Cascadia Cup, which is a 3-way kind of rivalry between Vancouver, Portland, and Seattle.
Right.
So there's definitely those regional rivalries and intercity rivalries. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see next year when San Diego comes in, who they're, like, are they just going to get San Jose as a rival just because San Jose needs somebody? We'll see. Like, nobody knows yet, but we'll see what happens when they come in. But I mean, the rivalries and the Sunday games are always interesting. The day games are always interesting at City Park because it's loud there. It doesn't tend to seem to be quite as loud as Saturday nights. But then if you think about the fact that, if you have a 7:00 start on Saturday, you can be out there pretty early pre-gaming, just like a football tailgate. Right. But if you have a 1:45 start or 1:30 start, you have people who probably are not getting out there 4 or 5 hours at a time. So
they're going to different things in the morning. They're going to, church or something in the morning.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And whatnot. So except if you get a chance to make it out to a game this year, go ahead and, you only got a couple more opportunities left. So if you get that opportunity, go ahead and take it.
I would say, like, if it's somebody who has never been, regardless of what happens with the regular season, the rest of the season, if you've never been and you're like, hey, I want to go to a game this year just to check it out, go to the Kansas match. Because regardless of what it is, like, they could be out of the playoffs, they could be still fighting for a playoff spot. That one will be the loudest it will be for the rest of the year. It will be, insane like it always is. Especially considering we've tied them twice, and a win would, kind of give us the season series over them. So that would be the most recommended one to go to if you've never been and you're curious about going. Go to Kansas match. So for sure.
Deal. That works. We're gonna jump over, talk a little bit of, I guess, Josh, if you're ready to talk some, Josh and Jordan and Chris and whoever else.
Well, I want to apologize for being late.
Chat. Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
The party, and then I had technical difficulties. So hold on, real quick. I get down here, computer won't turn on.
Nice.
Crap. So I got to figure out where we had a storm today out here. It must have thrown the little breaker switch. It took me a few minutes to figure that out. Then I get up here and then I come to get on and my mic's not working. And I couldn't hear anything.
That happened the last time too.
Yeah. So I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's talk a little bit of, kind of change topics here a little bit. We'll talk some Cardinal baseball for a little bit. Last I saw, they were up 3-2. I'm not going to jinx it, so I'm going to look at it now. I'm not going to. I was holding on to it. Still same. Still 3-2. Bottom of the 6th, 1 out. Josh, quick thoughts on the last week.
They're doing exactly what so I had a conversation about a week and a half ago with somebody. It was before the Milwaukee series.
Mm-hmm.
It was right before the Milwaukee series, so maybe it was last week. And I said they're gonna lose like 14 of their next 18 games.
Yeah.
He was like, "You think so?" I said, "Yeah, pretty close to it." They're gonna win. They're only gonna win 4 out of like their next 18 games. Yeah. I think they're gonna lose 14 of them. And he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. Well, we came out of the Milwaukee series, and then we went in the next series. And I was like, crap, I'm going to look bad. Well, they look pretty horrible tonight. Well, they haven't looked good this series so far. But tonight's been a little better. Pies has looked horrible tonight. That's what I should have said, because he's just pissed me off all night long.
Learn
to eat it, buddy.
Yeah. So this 4-game series against the Padres was, I wouldn't say okay, we could say it was a key series because the Padres have one of those wild card spots that the Cardinals are trying to climb back into. And right now, the best you can do is split when you probably needed to win the series.
Oh yeah, you needed to win this one. You needed to win. You got the series win against the Twins, and you won the Brewers somehow. You got smoked up by the Dodgers. Well, they were only 1-run losses, but
yeah, there's 3-2-1.
The Reds. I'm going back to the Reds. I'm still mad about the Reds series. You want me to be honest? I've been frustrated since then. I think they still, if they might win this one, I think they lose tomorrow because it's the afternoon game. I think they get swept by the Yankees. They may get 1 out of the Yankees.
I just say the way they play though, they'll probably sweep the Yankees.
I mean, yeah. Just because I'm coming out here and giving them the KOD.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, man. I'm so frustrated with this team. I'm so frustrated with the front office. We just DFA'd Armstrong, which
Saw that.
am I mad about it? No. I really don't care. But I think we could have gotten more than 12 innings for Dylan Carlson. So now I'm just mad about the Dylan Carlson trade. And not because he's playing well. We could have gotten more, or you guys could have at least kept Armstrong on through the end of the year so we know if we should re-sign him for next year, because we obviously still need help.
Right.
We need depth in the bullpen. So I'm irritated tonight, Brandon. That's how I feel, man. That's where I'm at with the Cardinals. And
I can tell, but they brought up
trying to be calm.
They brought up your dude. He's finally, I guess, back as Riley O'Brien. So
we finally get to see him.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him all year. So, yeah, I'm excited to see him. Herrera's back up now that Contreras is hurt.
Yeah.
Herrera I watched the game the other day. I don't remember which one it was. But Herrera had 2 throwdowns to second. One was a bouncer, and the second one was right on target. He was just slow. He got beat, but
yeah,
it's not like the guy was standing on second by the time the throw got there either. Right. So it's there. He has the ability. He needs work. He needs a catching coach. Yeah. Come back to the States for a couple months, work with the kids. But no, I mean, there's a lot going on for Cardinals country right now. I honestly think you DF, and I think we've all seen this on Twitter, different versions of it. Give Tommy a chance to leave. Give Matt a chance to leave. Basically, give all your vets a chance to walk out right now and see if they can get picked up. I'd even give Goldie an opportunity. Hey, if you don't want to play here on the super cheap, then how about we just cut you loose and see if somebody picks you up for the playoffs, and just start waving guys, and call the kids up. I'm at that point with it, because at least then I can deal with losing baseball games. I can deal with not being in the playoffs, because I'm getting a preview of what we have. We get a look at what's coming up and see where we need to go address the issues of the future, because this organization is losing control of their minds. Their fan base, they had 12,000 something fans show up last night.
Yeah.
12,000. We're not going to hit the 3 million mark this year.
28.
For the first time in like 30 something years.
Yeah.
Like, wake up.
Even the sports announcers on the game cast was like, we're here in Busch Stadium in St. Louis at the Cardinals Stadium, and I have never seen this place this empty. Yeah.
So I'm very upset. I am proud of the fans for the ones who said, or if you're going to put bad product on the field, we're not going to pay to go. And they're actually showing them that they're serious.
Right.
It may not be our team. We may not pay the bills and everything else, but we're the fans. We show up. We buy the apparel. We support your organization. You deserve to give us good product. Yeah, we're spoiled because it's been good for us had a slump in the 90s. The 80s were good for us. The 70s were bad. We've basically been good for the last 20 years, and we're falling into some hard times. Do we deserve these hard times? I wouldn't say we deserve it. It's probably just our turn. But they are living in the past. They missed the turn, the off-ramp to the future. They fired everybody in-house or let everybody in-house go, or pissed off everybody in-house who understood how this organization was supposed to run, what the culture was, what the tradition was, and they shouldn't have gotten rid of Schill.
No,
I'm not saying that because of where he's at, but he was the last. I mean, if you really look at it, everything is crumbled since we let Schilt go. And I'm not saying that's Ollie's fault. I'm saying that you just lost that guy who's been with the organization for 20 plus years, who knew everything, who had ties to everybody who was there, that had the winning and went through rough times and came out on top.
Yeah.
I'm very frustrated as a fan, and it's only because I care, and I hate the fact that I care so much.
It's all love.
In some ways, sorry.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was gonna say in some ways, I have always kind of compared, at least the Cardinals recently, not so much like the Musial era and all that stuff, or the '60s era, but I've always kind of compared the Cardinals to other teams in other sports, and the clubs I've always kind of found them similar to in certain ways are the Spurs and the Packers. non-major markets that were always what you could consider very well-run organizations, right? Like, top to bottom, had success despite the size of the market, but well-run. And it's been an awfully long time now where you could describe the Cardinals as a well-run organization. Like, they're just not. And it's evident from the top down in the decisions that are made, the personnel moves that are made, the state of the minor league system. Like, it's not a well-run organization. And to me, it goes beyond just who the manager is. It's a front office that is just adrift without any ideas on how to fix it.
Yep.
And I think if we're in a situation where we're just playing out the string of Mozeliak's career here, and he's not going to get rid of him because, well, he's only got another year or however long it is, then it's dark days right now for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. So he only has 1 year left. So next year, the end of next year will be the rumor has it. I don't know. I wouldn't say if it's 100% true that he's going to be gone after the end of his contract next year. But what it was, of course, my mind's always thinking when I see these things is what if he brings in 2 or 3 different guys in the offseason, like he says he has, but he actually does it, and they go on to be the NL Central champs, the pennant champions next year. You still think he's gone, or you think they give him an extension?
Adios, amigo.
See ya.
Adios.
You think he's gone?
Got to.
You have to.
I mean, because
and if you're dumb enough to take him back, you don't mind getting beat by your abusive ex, and you keep running back to her.
Okay,
that's exactly why.
No, you have to get rid of him. You have to get rid of him because you've seen his track. You've seen his track record. How long has he been here? He's been here for a long time. We've
been patient long enough.
Patient long enough. We know how he runs. We know what he's doing. We see what he's doing. We're upset with him. Like, we're the best fans in baseball. We're called that for a reason. And it's like us not showing up is not saying something to you. Then you need to go. Bye-bye. I mean, regardless, you need to go anyway. I just think it's that time. He's been running one organization for a long time, and he's not doing what this organization should have been doing. And after watching the previous interview with Mike Schilt over this weekend, nice. It just makes me more and more mad that we got rid of him because he was in this organization, like Josh was saying, and he was the heart. He wasn't the heart. He became the heart once he became the manager, but he knew. Like Josh said, he knew how to run things. He knew what the Cardinal way was. He knew like baseball, like he knew whitey ball, like he knew small ball, like the basics, like what he's doing with San Diego right now. Like, we're starting over, going to the basics. Like, he was a great coach, man, and he was shamed out of here. Basically, he was just kicked to the curb, and that was on Mozeliak, and that was a bad decision. Like, he's a good coach. I'm not just saying that because what he's doing in San Diego, again, like what Josh said, but it's just overall how long he was here, the time he committed. Like, he knew, like you said, he knew everything. Right. Even though if he brings in people, okay, like I hope you're bringing in people to set up your predecessor, and be like, okay, I'm going to set it up for this next guy so he's not screwed.
Which is already in the organization.
Yeah. What?
He's already in the organization.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, he's not gonna leave it. I would hope not. But even if we do bring in some bangers and we go to the playoffs and we're Central Division champs and maybe go to the NLCS or whatever, and it doesn't matter. He needs. I just think it's that time. I think the organization needs a restart, and which is with everything. Even still, get rid of Mozeliak, let everybody go, trade who you got to trade. Bring up the young guys, maybe sign some pitching with the money that you're going to have by letting these big contracts go, Arenado, Goldschmidt, so on and so forth. Let your young guys play. And like he said, I'd be more happier, not happier, but it'd be more understandable seeing us lose the games than we are right now, which we shouldn't be with. I just don't think we should be, but we don't have the proper pitching. But other than that, Mozeliak needs to go after next season, 100%.
There, Chris, I know you were trying to chime in there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Everything you said is valid. The thing that's frustrating about the Schilt situation, at least for me, and I think for other people, is he was the last link in this organization to George Kissel, who was basically the author of the Cardinal Way, like the guy who essentially, was kind of the heart and soul of that. And Schilt was a student of his, and Schilt was like the last guy that meant anything to. And you have a front office who wants to embrace more modern ways of doing things, and didn't necessarily care about that old school, concept of the Cardinal Way, but to abandon a guy who bled Cardinal red as much as Schilt did after a successful season. It's not like he was terrible and they let him go.
Right.
They made the playoffs that year, and then he decided that, oh, well, I don't want a guy who's not just going to rubber stamp everything I want to do from a front office perspective. It was just so disappointing the way he was treated, and it broke his heart, and it broke a lot of people's hearts about that's not the way that the Cardinals should do things. The other part of it that is, a little disappointing as well is everybody's ire and anger and frustration is aimed at one guy, or mostly aimed at one guy, which is Mozeliak. You also get a little bit of the standard, well, DeWitt doesn't spend enough money, but every owner in history for every team is accused of that. But the persona non grata, the guy who never gets blamed for anything, is the general manager, is Michael Gersh. You never hear anybody talk about him, right? And yeah, we understand like the relationship is that Mozeliak is the head of baseball operations, but you still also have a general manager. And in a lot of other cities, that's the guy who gets a lot of the ire, is who the GM is for not making the correct trades or player moves. So, I don't think Gersh is if you're going to wear that tag of you're the GM, you shouldn't be immune to criticism either, and I think he's the luckiest guy in St. Louis right now, because I think people don't remember who he is because he's not publicly visible as much as Mozeliak is, but he's as culpable as any of them. Right.
So I'm with you 100% on that, Chris. But the only thing I want to ask, because you're going to know this better than I would, like I'm openly admitting that. And before I ask this question, I need to say something because people know me and have heard me talk about Schilt before. I was happy that when Schilt got let go, even though we were winning, I didn't appreciate the way he was doing the games, calling the games and managing the games. So in all fairness, I was one of the people who was happy he got let go, and I regret that decision, and I was wrong. I want to say that on here so when my mom doesn't call me out in the chat here when she starts watching.
I'll make sure to clip that, Josh. We'll send it right to her.
Oh, nice. Great. No, I forgot where I was at. Oh, we were talking about Gersh.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, we all know that Gersh is there and we know what Gersh's role is. Do you really feel like Gersh has any power? Mozeliak's always the one doing the interviews. He's always the one talking, putting out articles or answering questions. It's never Gersh. We don't ever see him. I think, because I don't know, I think Mozeliak basically runs the entire team. What does Gersh really do as the GM? Isn't he more or less just Mozeliak's errand boy? For lack of a better term,
I think you're looking for
lackey. There you go. That would work.
Yeah.
That's how I see Gersh.
So the situation about, I think what happened was, now nobody knows the politics of it, but Mozeliak was promoted, I think, as a way to reward him for his many years of service, to pay him more money. And I think, at a certain point, maybe DeWitt gets nervous that, he might leave and go somewhere else if I don't do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to promote him to president of baseball operations and basically give him a better title, give him a, quote unquote, more responsibility. I don't think his role has changed from when he was GM until now. I think he's still the guy who ultimately makes decisions about the baseball side, which is a little atypical with most organizations, because in most organizations, your general manager is the one who's responsible for the on-field product. That's the guy who is in charge of the major league team and, on down, but primarily responsible for the product on the field at the major league level. Right. The president of baseball operations is more designed to organizationally be the boss, right? So yes, he's involved in on-field decisions at the major league level, but also all the way up and down the organization. And so, I think that the scenario, I think it just turned into, well, we have to do something to reward Mozeliak and to make sure that he doesn't want to leave, or that somebody else is going to make him their director of baseball operations or president of baseball operations. But he's still going to have all the power. Right. And so I don't think there's a lot of organizations that are run in a similar fashion to the way the Cardinals are run right now, where your GM is an afterthought.
I think that's why I don't blame Gersh as much, because I feel like he has no power and he is a lackey. That's where I was going with that.
But my argument to that is you're still the general manager. You're one of 30 general managers in Major League Baseball. And if you have the title general manager, I don't care what team it's for, and your team is underperforming, then you should get as much criticism as anybody.
And I'm good with that too.
You don't get a free pass just because you say, oh, well, my boss is the one making all the decisions. No. I'm sorry, but not at that level and not with that job title. Right now, it doesn't work like that. So.
Yeah. He has to have some kind of, in some way, somehow, some say. And that was a lot harder to say than you think, by the way. Some way, be able to voice what he thinks and what he's talking about and whatnot. Just as like Chris said, he has that title. So, and unless he's just sitting back doing nothing, then there's no sense of that title being there. So in some way, he's got to have some kind of like thoughts that get to Mo, that Mo has to think about. And even though Mo's going to be the one who makes a decision on things, it's at the same time, you can't have, I don't know.
I get what
you
you're
wouldn't
saying.
want to be, you also wouldn't want to be would you want to be a GM that has no real
say.
power in your organization?
Yeah.
No,
You wouldn't want to be, but it's Cush and he's protected. I'm looking at this from the absolute worst case scenario. Like, what if this is nearly what it is? Like, Gersh just does all the paperwork and all the official team stuff, and Mozeliak's actually back there playing puppet master the whole time. That's kind of more what I'm getting at. Like, Gersh isn't making his own decisions. It's kind of like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Jerry Jones does everything. He's in control of everything. That's how I kind of picture the Cardinals organization right now. And I'm sure that Gersh has influence. I'm not saying he doesn't. He is so far out of the public eye, like you said. I think that's why he gets off the hook. And I don't even come at him as hard because he doesn't say stupid things or make stupid comments like, DeWitt the Third has, or like Mozeliak has a couple of times. I
still think, and Jordan and Josh, you and I talked one time, one of the other times I was on, I still don't think that they ever recovered from Lunel leaving. I still think that was one of the most underappreciated. Yes, I know the science ceiling scandal and all that stuff that happened in Houston, but that guy was the architect of their entire way of doing business and evaluating players for several years, and they were on the cutting edge of that in all of baseball. He left after the 2011 championship year, and I don't think they ever replaced the level of player evaluation quality that he had. And that's one of those things that you don't notice the decay in your organization from player evaluations right away, because all those guys are still in the organization, right? It takes a few years. And by the time you realize that the quality of guys that you have are worse than what you had before, so you're 4 or 5 years into not having that same level of player in your minor league system, and your scouting isn't as good and your drafting isn't as good. Now all of a sudden it's a bigger hole than you thought to get out of, because you don't realize it right away. The impact is 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years down the road. And I don't think they've ever recovered from him leaving. I don't think they put the right people in the position to replace the player evaluations personnel that we had in when he was here.
I mean, I think Randy Flores is doing a good job as of like the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, we have gotten some solid players. Now we'll see how the pitchers work out. We haven't seen
Quinn
Yeah,
Matthews.
so Quinn Matthews.
My question,
Yeah, my question would be is if you look at the current club, you have, yes, your anchor future shortstop of the next 10 years in Mason Wynn.
Yeah.
Okay. They still don't have, nobody knows what Gorman's deal is anymore, right?
Yeah. It's not the popcorn.
Burleson, yes. You could probably say, okay, we have confidence that Burleson's going to be a solid contributor plus, for the Cardinals for a long time. But if you look at the outfield, like my point is like you can say that Randy Flores has done a really good job or a good job, but most of their talent has not come from within the organization. Goldschmidt wasn't from here, Arenado wasn't from here. Like where are these supposed great? When's the last time the Cardinals had a homegrown superstar?
Well, Tavares was going to be it, but
yeah, and again, that's another thing you can point to and say they never recovered from that either, right?
Yeah. I think that was what started all the bad trades and started the roster falling apart.
That's because they were trying to fill a void of him not being there. Yeah.
Yeah. They wound up making a desperation signing in Dexter Fowler.
Yeah.
It just seemed like let's just sign somebody at that point. Like, yeah, it was a snowball effect for sure.
Could you say the same thing with Jason Hayward then? It was kind of like a we'll see how it works out kind of deal. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think we can judge Flores over the next 2 seasons because if McGreevy works out, Graceffo works out, the kid who just got called up today,
Quentin Matthews.
Well,
he's AAA now. He's in Memphis.
Yeah, well, he's AAA, but he's jumped all 4 minor league systems in 1 year, so he should have a chance out of camp, or he'll probably be one of the first guys called up next year. Tink Hintz. I mean, there's more coming, and I know JC's not one of ours. We got him in a trade, but there's other guys coming, and we'll see over the next couple of years how the youth does. I think we have a problem at the major league level. I mean, let's be honest. They called Walker up to platoon against lefties for some godforsaken reason, considering he hits righties better. They get him up here, and Mozeliak says that if he's up here, he's going to play. He's up here for 11 days, 12 days, and he had a total of 15 at bats, 14 at bats. Like the kid didn't play, so he only had 2 hits the whole time he was up here, and I think a walk, and a couple Ks. He goes back down to Memphis, and he just goes back to smashing the ball. Like, why not let him play? You had him up here. Let's see where he's at right now. Even if you told him, hey, you're coming up for a short time, we're going to send you back down, so he knows about it, so you don't destroy his confidence, which I'm sure that's what happened. Right. Why did you not play him and see how much he's grown so you can evaluate and say, okay, cool, this has gotten better. Go work on this now. That's right. You blowing opportunities is what's going to really upset me with this when it comes to Walker, because we know Walker has every tool. At least we've been told he has every tool. He's just got to put it all together. And some guys develop it a little bit later. He's still really young. But if they keep bringing him up or he keeps making the team out of camp and they kick him back down, you're going to destroy the kid's head. So they should have just left him up to play, in my opinion. Victor Scott we'll see what Victor Scott turns into. It looks like he's made some improvements since he was up here at the beginning of the season with his bat. Defense is still phenomenal. He had an amazing catch the other day.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of youth coming, and if they can put it together, if Herrera can get his arm and his pop time fixed, that'd be absolutely fantastic, because he calls a great game. He's really, really, really good defensively, but he can smash from the plate. And we know he can smash from the plate. But he's got to work on his arm strength and his pop time, which is the biggest thing you have as your biggest weapon as a catcher. So if that can be improved upon, we have a really nice young core that's, between 22 and 26 years old. If they do this right and bring in the right veterans now, or find the right people, or get the right manager and the right coaching staff, whatever it is, they could have a nice window to go to a couple or 3 or 4 World Series over the next 10 to 15 years, as long as they play their cards right.
Which is why I don't think they get rid of Arenado, and why I don't think they get rid of Goldschmidt, is to keep that veteran presence that those two bring. I know the contracts are there, but I don't think they get rid of them guys for that reason. They're good leaders in the locker room.
Then why were they asking for Matt Carpenter and Crawford to be signed in the offseason? Because they needed better leadership in the locker room.
Not better, more.
Okay.
You can't rely on Arenado and Goldschmidt by themselves. You needed more.
Not with this many kids.
No, exactly. You needed more. That's all.
I mean, the thing that I don't really know.
Hey, buddy.
Let's say next year we're going into 25, and it is, let's say, going to be the last year of Mozeliak. Is he going to burn his last year on a rebuild with a bunch of kids?
Right.
Or is he going to try?
He's not going to make a run.
Well, or does he say, okay, I want to go out with a playoff appearance, which, as we've talked about before, just making the playoffs is not that big of a deal anymore because of the expanded playoffs. And it's not, and it seems seemingly the organization is just happy just to make the playoffs now, as opposed to actually competing for a pennant. And does Mozeliak say, well, no, we're just going to try to do enough just to win a consistently weak Central Division, squeak into the playoffs, and then I'll ride off into the sunset saying it was a success. I don't think he's going to burn his last year on a rebuild with a bunch of young kids. I just don't.
If I'm DeWitt, he doesn't have a choice, and here's why: because the typical weak Central Division that we've had for the last decade plus isn't going to be weak. Milwaukee obviously knows how to play ball. I think they're a paper tiger, and I think they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. But they have a nice young core that's coming together. Cincinnati, if they can ever find a GM to run that team correctly, they have talent. They just got to get it all put together, and they need a better coach. The Cubs are going to spend some money, and they're going to get better and better. And they have young players to build around now, and they're bringing in the pieces they need from the outside.
The Cubs are on the verge.
Pitching's healthy.
The Cubs are on the verge of being a pretty solid baseball team.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's either you start the rebuild now or you go spend money. They're not going to spend money. Go ahead and start the rebuild. Trade Arenado, trade Contreras. I mean, literally, strip it down and go get all young talent. Open up that pocketbook. Go find a couple of these guys we can sign on the free agent market first, that are young pitchers that are looking for a big contract. I'm talking, guys for 5 years, $150 million contracts.
Yeah.
Go find a couple of those and restart. Just restart the whole thing. Tell everybody it's going to be 3 or 4 years. At that point, these other teams' windows will start to close. Ours will be open and primed, and we can go on another dynasty run. That's my thought process. I don't know if it all made perfect sense, but
no, I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that the Cardinals would ever go into full tear it down rebuild mode like that. Just because, are they going to, is DeWitt going to look at, okay, here was our season this year. There's 12,000 people in the stadium last year. What's the attendance going to look like if they go into next year with a whole bunch of kids and are basically kind of saying ahead of time, we're building for the future. This is not a town that has ever really been used to that from a baseball perspective, right? Other places like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, I always have to tell my wife, who's the Brewers fan, hey, enjoy while they're good, because it's only going to usually last about 3 seasons, and then all your guys are out of there, right? Because they're going to go to bigger markets. This isn't a thing where you're Cincinnati and you're good for 2 seasons every 10 years, right? I think you would have a hard time selling a full rebuild like that to the Cardinal fans, who are already frustrated that they haven't been competing for playoffs and pennants. And to say what you're doing is you're admitting that, oh yeah, the last 3 or 4 years didn't work. Now we're going to be even worse for the next 2 or 3 years. What's that going to do to attendance? I don't think your owner is going to, put up with that.
But it also gives us something to look forward to, because we've been being told things over and over, and those things aren't coming tuition. So it's like you tell the fan base, hey, we're going to bring up all of our young guys. We might sign some pitchers, off like that. I mean, we're going to try to bring our guys up within. I mean, that's also giving us something to look forward to. So as a fan, I would want to go to cheer on our young guys, to show them what St. Louis is about. I mean, that could also bring a big spark with the young fellas coming up, showing them what St. Louis is all really about, what this fan base can be like. what you can play behind, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I do agree with you. I don't see them really doing that, but I mean, it's like, really, what other choice do we really have at this point? Like, you almost need to come out and just be like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is something like similar to what the Blues are doing. It's going to be yeah, I know.
He's not smart enough to pull it off.
No, well, I'm not talking like off the offer sheet type of stuff, but like the retool of bringing in younger kids, the youth of your team, but still having that leadership side of things, like you see with Braden Shin and with Justin Folk and those kind of guys, which realistically Braden Shin and Justin Folk are like your Arenado and Goldsmith type of guys. They're that same type of leadership in the locker room. So I think that's what we would see out of the Cardinals. I don't think they're going to go full tear down, let's start over from the beginning type of deal. I don't think they do that. I think I mentioned, like I said before, like if Mo wants to, if he's going to leave, he's going to want to try to leave on a good note, even though it's not going to happen. He's going to want to try to leave on a good note, and he's going to want to bring in whoever he can to try to make things better, to patch up that relationship that he's kind of blemished over the last 3-4 years.
You'd have a far easier job in selling it if this was, let's say, Mozeliak's, this was the last year of his contract, right? And this was, kind of his going into it. We all knew that, he's probably out of here. You'd have a far easier job if, let's say Sean Bloom is the next guy or whoever is going to be the next guy. You could sell it a lot easier if he came in next year and said, okay, we're going young. We're going to rebuild this organization from the ground up. You'd have a far easier job, I think, in selling that to people than to go into next year with Mozeliak saying, we're going to play all the young guys and blow it up. And then it's like, well, yeah, but you're not even going to be here. It would be a weird situation, I think. But
it's like the captain leaving the sinking ship when captains are supposed to stick around till the boat's gone all the way under. It's like him jumping onto the lifeboat and sailing away while the Cardinals continue to sink.
Would you expect anything else from a guy who wears a bow tie? I mean, come on.
Actually, yes, because they're supposed to be classy.
It's a facade, man. It's a facade. No, but Chris, I do agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. But if you were going to do it, now is the time, because that window is about to come open where you can have another dynasty. In my opinion, because I like a lot of our youth. I like a lot of the guys we have coming up from AAA and AA. I like the stats I'm seeing. Let me be very clear. I like the stats I'm seeing on paper.
Yeah.
I think we can go and acquire other, 27, 28-year-olds to fill in the void or the openings where we have them. But we can still keep guys like, I think Newbar should be traded. That's one I would get rid of. But I mean, obviously keep Donovan, anybody under the age of 30. Basically clear out everybody over 30 and just go that route with it. And then go pick up guys under the age of 30. Like, build yourself a solid window. And then while you're bad for the next 2 or 3 years and the fans are going to understand, hey, we're going to get better draft picks, let's bolster and make some good draft picks, I think this, if they were going to do it, and they're not going to, like you said, I agree with you 100%. I just think this would be their most opportune time where they could sell it to the fans. You guys don't like the product we've had on the field, we have to rebuild because we're not going to spend more money. This is the game plan. Boom. We need you to support us.
Padres,
just go that route. Sell it.
Padres just tied it up 3-3.
Dang, you're ahead of me.
Yeah.
Must be a home run.
Yep.
Higashioka. How do you say his name?
I don't know. I wasn't even going to try to say it. So
Higashioka. Darren, if you're watching, you can make fun of me. I just butchered somebody's name.
Yeah. Off of Jojo Romero. It's not top of the 8th, 2 outs, tied 3-3 with the Padres. So anything else?
Tied with the Padres and not getting blown out.
That's true. I mean, I wouldn't say they've been close games, but they've been
7-5, 7-4. We're holding them to 7.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Yeah. Anything else on on the Cardinals, and we'll wrap things up tonight?
No, I'm sure everybody wants to go to bed.
Jordan, Chris?
No, I didn't know if we're gonna talk about the Blues thing you wanted to talk about real quick, or
Yeah, well, you know what, we can. Why not? Why not? We're already here. We might as well. Talk a little bit of, huh?
Yes, let's do it. Go.
Let's do it. Well, I'm not gonna hit the thing. I'm not.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was getting excited for the.
Oh,
I
you
was
want me to
getting ready
play?
for the thing.
You know what? I'll do it just
That's
for you.
Yeah.
Just for you.
Hit it, Seth.
Just for you.
I
So
mean,
obviously the big.
I am wearing an Urge T-shirt, so you know.
Yes.
It just makes me happy, man.
Uh,
I have something to look forward to at hockey season now. I'm excited.
obviously last week you had the big offer sheet signings, but what I wanted to talk about when I ask each one of you, and I'll start with Jordan. I haven't heard a lot from Jordan tonight, so let's start with Jordan. Jordan, who is your favorite St. Louis Blues hockey player of all time?
Okay, well, since I've been watching hockey, it's been quite a while. My guy that I've enjoyed watching growing up through the years, well, especially this past, I don't know, since like maybe 2010, really. That's when I really started getting into it. I would have to go David Perron. 11 seasons with the Blues.
Yeah.
11 seasons with the Blues. He's been 4 other teams. He's always wanted to be a Blue. He's got his money, taking less money just to be here. He loves it here. He won the Stanley Cup with us in 2019. Just an overall great player, great guy, great person overall outside of hockey as well. Just always been a Blue, always been about the fans, always overall I got to go David Perron. Just great guy overall. And like I said, he's a true Blue at heart. He wanted to come here. We didn't re-sign him. He was going to take less money. We didn't bring him back, but it is what it is. He'll go on to be a Blue Hall of Famer, I'm sure. And that's my guy.
Yeah. Chris,
I'm gonna have a hard time picking just one. I have 2. So can Jordan do 2? So I don't feel like the bad guy who can't decide.
All right.
Give me your second favorite, Jordan.
All right. Well, if I got to go a second one, I'm about physical activity on the ice. I like fights. All right. So if I had to go another one, I'm gonna go Tony Twist. All right. Dude was a brawler. Okay, and also he had a restaurant in Imperial, kind of like a bar kind of type thing. And I would always go there every Saturday, me and my buddies, and have all you can eat appetizers. Anyway,
that's Case and Bucks now, isn't it? Isn't that what's where?
No, it's Cactus Pete's now.
Cactus Pete's.
It's right there on the corner at Imperial. You get off, go right if you're going northbound. Anyway, but yeah, Tony Twist, man, he was a brawler, a fighter. He was just big dude. And I've always been about the fighters, and I'd have to go him for my second favorite.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Chris?
Thank you, Jordan.
Sorry, Josh, I took yours.
That bails me out of only having to pick one. So I have kind of an old school one and a newer school one. Obviously I'm older than you guys. My absolute favorite hockey player growing up as a kid was Mike Liut. The goalie for the Blues. It devastated me when they traded him. And they traded him in '84 in first place, by the way, to Hartford only for financial considerations. Harry Onest was the owner of the team at the time. It was the guy who tried to move us to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Right.
He basically traded Liut. Everybody knew it was like, hey, I can't pay him anymore. And right in the middle of the season, and they're in first place, he trades him to Hartford, and it just devastated me. I was just crushed as a little kid, and so I loved Liut. I thought he was awesome. Now he was never the same player after he basically got obliterated by the Russians in one of the Canada Cups. He was not the same goalie after that. And so ultimately from a performance perspective, they actually didn't really lose that much from him, but he just meant so much to me. He was like the first hockey player I was a big fan of as a kid.
Right.
More modern guy. I look at guys who, it's a cliche, but that bleed blue, and who are who takes such pride in wearing the blue note. And there's a lot of those guys over the years, but I don't think wearing the blue note and being the captain meant any more to anybody ever than David Backus.
Yeah.
Like Backus was just a guy who I think he loved being part of this community. He did so much for the community, and I think it just meant so much for him to wear the C and to wear the blue note that it was hard not to just love that guy. And so for a newer player, I think Backus. So, and I mean, and I was around for prime Brett Hall years and Adam Oates years, and I'm more of a Brett Hall fan of who he is now as the honorary mayor of St. Louis than when he played here, because I always found him just be kind of a cherry picking, non-defensive, didn't work hard on the defensive end,
right,
type guy. And in the World Cup of Hockey in '96 was the first time anybody saw him play defense. He played two-way for Canada and was incredibly good on the defensive end. And he never did that at the NHL level until he got older, like for Detroit and things like that. But so I was here for a lot of that peak, like Hall years. And I still think that from just my favorite was Backus.
Yeah. Josh, favorite Blues player? I guess of your lifetime, we'll put it that way. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you two. Of my lifetime. So my favorite growing up as a little kid, Jordan Took. So we'll go elsewhere.
You can still pick him too.
No, that's fine.
It's
We'll move on. We got so many great Blues players. I can pick more. And I loved Holly.
So who did he
up
take?
As a kid.
He took who? Twist?
Tony Twist.
Twist.
So I would take Chaser because he was the other half of the Blues brothers, and I love Chaser. I loved him when he was calling the games on the radio. Think about him and keep him in our prayers all the time for everything he's going through.
Yeah.
Never met the man in my life, but feel like I know him from listening to him so much. And he's a good dude, so I liked him because he's underappreciated in my opinion.
And
because he was a protector and an enforcer.
The prep speech that he gave during the playoffs that lasted the entire run.
Mm-hmm.
Epic.
Oh, yeah, amazing. Yes. I love Chaser. Ryan Reeves was my guy as a late teens and early 20s.
Yes.
Playing the game. Guy. Huh?
Ryan Reeves.
I loved Reeves. I loved him,
dude. He was a brawler.
He was my guy.
Enforcer.
He was. So enforcers are my favorite, and here's why. They typically are not the most athletic. They are typically not the biggest scorer. Doesn't lead the team in assists. Might lead the team in blocks and play great defense, but they're not the offensive superstars.
Yeah.
They're not the guy that everybody comes out to see. But they're the guy who, when shit hits the fan, he says, "Don't worry, boys. You keep doing what you got to do. I'll take care of this." And he goes and handles business. He puts his face and his body on the line for his dudes. That's why I love enforcers. That's why I'm so mad at the NHL for trying to get them out of the game and remove the fighting from the game.
So your favorite wasn't Reed Lowe or
you got Cam Jansen?
Yeah. No, Cam's cool. Yeah. Cam's cool, but no, cool. It was. I always loved Tony and Chaser growing up. They were kind of like a package deal for me.
Yeah.
And when they got split up, I was really upset. Because I lived in northern Indiana at that point. I was in Blackhawk country. So when the Blues brothers went away, I was like, it's not going to be as easy to beat these guys up anymore. But, that was me as a small boy. But no, I love enforcers because they give it all. They're not the best guy out there. They know it, and they go out there and they give everything they have to their team.
Yeah.
That
speech and goon is like very hit home for me.
What about you, Brandon? Who's your one or two?
So thinking about this since I thought about, part of the conversation tonight. I was like, you know what? I was like, so I didn't really start watching Blues hockey until I was probably 10, 11, maybe younger. So I had a not so great introduction to the Blues because they were not very good at that time. But one name that always stuck out to me, and I want to say it was like one of the first jerseys I ever had, was Pierre Turgeon.
Turgeon, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it's got to be up there on my list. Of some of the top guys. I was really disappointed too when he got moved. When he went to Seattle was Jaden Schwartz. Love Schwartz. Yeah, I love the way he played. Kind of had that like little chip on his shoulder. Not being a big guy, and whatnot. So between those two guys, if I'm looking more towards the beginning of my time watching the Blues, definitely like the Pierre Turgeon style of play, and then up until he left, I'd probably say Jaden Schwartz is definitely one of my favorites that I've watched, that I've been able to see over the last couple of years. My wife actually has one of his the breast cancer awareness jersey with the name and stuff on the back of it.
Nice.
But other than that, you can't go wrong with TJ Oshie either. I know I saw it there. It was one of the other first jerseys I had. Once we really got into the Blues, watching the Blues, was TJ Oshie.
Yeah, that's the thing about hockey is you see how hard these guys work.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just me, maybe you guys feel the same way, but I feel much more of a connection with a larger quantity of Blues guys than I do with Cardinals. Yes, I mean, we love Yachty and Wainwright and Albert, and but there's not as many as those guys as you can think about, like with the Blues. And I could have named Al McInnes, I could have named Chris Pronger, Barry Jackman. I have a list of 20 of those guys, right? That I was just, man, I love watching those guys. And that, there's way less of those to me with Cardinals. I don't know what it is, if it's just the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that hockey players have to exert and practically kill themselves for our entertainment it just ingrains them into the cities in which they play, and especially here. So
Cujo, that's another good one
for sure. Yeah,
Curtis Joseph.
Those were my two favorite goalies growing up. Two and Nikolai Harvey Bullen.
Not Stanley Cup winning Jordan Bennington.
I said growing up, when I was a kid.
Okay.
Did you hear the other name? Heavy Bullen.
Heavy Bullen. Oh God,
I love that dude. He was the only reason Coyotes were good.
What we'll have to do at some point, and this is a future show idea.
You got to rank the goalies.
I love
it. Take it or leave it. Is by sport. So let's say baseball, hockey, whatever. Favorite non-St. Louis players.
Oh man.
Oh, that's a great show idea.
Yeah,
because I've lived in other cities, so it'll be easier for me.
Yeah, I haven't, but there are guys I'll tell you right now. My favorite, maybe this is a sneak preview of a future show. Favorite non-St. Louis hockey player of all time is Dominik Hasek.
Yeah,
by far.
Beast.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean the Dominator was just the most fun guy to watch. So just throwing it out there, potential show idea or segment idea. His favorite non-St. Louis guys in various sports. Yeah.
Hockey. I'd
easier.
Patrick Marleau.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Patrick Marleau, really? Wow.
Patrick Marleau. Yeah.
Guy
was solid.
That's not a bad choice, Josh. Peak Fedorov was
phenom.
So incredible that when the Red Wings were strapped defensively, volunteered to go play defense for essentially a quarter of a season and was good as any defenseman in the league.
Yeah.
That's how
I
talented
hated him so much. He was a Blues killer.
Most Red Wings of that era were Blues killers.
It's true.
That's true.
Lindstrom
for me. Yep.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yep. Yeah, that's tough.
Mine was Detroit players because my dad grew up. He was from Detroit. I've said this on here. So we watched a lot of Detroit games growing up in the 90s. So I a lot of Detroit in the 90s, a lot of those players I liked watching.
Yeah.
That's a good show idea. I'm in.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. We'll make sure you're there too.
For sure.
Yeah,
I got two great baseball ones, so we'll tease that for next time. So.
Yes, that works. Anyways, for anybody who tuned in tonight, we definitely appreciate it. We got one up, one from 31 to 32. So whoever subbed tonight, appreciate it. Thank you. As well. Thanks for tuning in, Chris. Always doing great stuff with City SC coverage over at stlsoccernews.com and just all over the place all the time. So make sure you check his stuff out too. I think check out the website. There's tons of different City SC creators on his website alone. So you don't have to go search for them. all you got to do is go to stlsoccernews.com. You'll find everything that you need for City SC when it comes to creators, news, thoughts, anything like that. Jordan, Josh, thanks for jumping on tonight as well.
Sorry, I was late.
You're fine. You don't have to say sorry.
Right.
It's fine. It's fine.
Feel
It
bad.
happens. It happens.
Right.
Yeah. You got stuck in traffic. You just say you got stuck in traffic. It's fine. That's all.
That works too.
That's all.
Out in the middle of nowhere where I live.
Yeah. You know, you probably got stuck in the corner.
I got stuck. Exactly. I got.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, be nice. I'm an Illinois guy too, so we have traffic over here. You get stuck behind the combine, going 5 miles an hour. It happens. So.
That's the worst thing ever, too. And you can't
We don't
pass.
get a lot of the combines out here.
Yellow lines. It's awful.
Had to deal with that in Illinois when we worked out there, Seth.
Yeah, it was awful. Millstadt, O'Fallon area. Yeah. It was awful. Anyways, we'll see you next time.
See you guys.